if you can hear the yelling outside, I'm pretty sure it's the ROTC people, and they wake me up like every morning and I hate them, so I'm sorry if you can hear that. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a recommendation video for underrated books, and this is kind of just going to be a mosh podge of a lot of different genres because I couldn't quite find like ones to fit a specific genre across the board. So this is just a variety of books that I think are underrated, and by underrated I just basically mean they're ones that I don't really see on Bookstagram, Book Talk. I don't really see people talk about them a lot, so I am very excited to talk about them and hopefully maybe convince you to pick some of them up because there are some really good ones on this. The first one is Conventionally Yours by Annabeth, and if you have been watching my videos the last couple ones, you have probably already heard me talk about this book, but I just think not enough people know that this book exists, and more people need to know that it exists. It is so good. It follows two characters who are on this team for like the tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons, but they call it something different, and they hate each other because they're rivals in the game and they've just always hated each other, but they end up having to take this road trip and it ends up just being the two of them, and by the end of it they are, you know, becoming friends, and they realize that they're really developing something more than a friendship, and they have a lot of personal problems to overcome as well as coming together in a relationship, and it was just such a good book. I loved these characters, I loved this world. Just the fact that a good amount of the story took place at a Comic-Con convention, it gave me life because I obviously missed Comic-Con this year because of the pandemic, and there is a giant hole in my heart that is Comic-Con shaped this year. So this was a really fun escape in that way, and it was just so fun and nerdy and I absolutely adored it. If you liked Geekerella, I feel like you would really like this book. I really hated Geekerella, but this is what Geekerella I think is to other people. This one is to me. So I really hope you consider picking this up because it is so good. Annabeth is a adult romance author. This one is definitely younger adult, like new adult probably, and I just absolutely adored it, and I cannot wait for her to continue writing books in this series. This next one I specifically chose Not If I Save You First by Ally Carter, but genuinely I just mean any book by Ally Carter. I've read all of them except for her writing advice book, which I will get to eventually, but I have always loved Ally Carter. I have been reading her books since the 7th grade, and I have read all of them. There is the Gallagher Girls series, there is the High Society series, and then there is the other series. I don't know what the like title of that one is, but another like sort of spy-ish embassy book, and I love them all. And then there's also Not If I Save You First, which is a standalone, and she recently did come out with a middle grade series. I think just the first one is out, and that I do still have to read, but I have it like saved on my library. I love Ally Carter. Not enough people talk about her. She's an incredible author, has an incredible backlist. She's definitely middle grade YA, depending on which series you're reading, and I just think that she deserves more love and attention. She is a lot like Rick Riordan or some of those big authors. Her books don't cover magic or mythology, but they are just so much fun. The Gallagher Girls series is about a school for spies, and it's all these young girls training to be spies, and it's so much fun. It is so much fun. And then High Society is a duology, which I still to this day am waiting for more books in that series. It's about a girl whose whole family, they're all criminals and thieves and bad stuff, and she's, you know, going into the family business, and it's a lot of fun. And then her other series is about a girl who lives in an embassy, and this, I believe it took place in like a made-up country, and there's a big mystery going on. I don't remember that one as well because I have only read that series once, whereas the other I've read them quite a few times. And then Not If I Save You First is about a girl who is in the Alaskan wilderness, and lots of stuff happens, and it's just such a good book. Everything she writes is so good, and I feel like no one ever talks about her. So if you are looking for a really fun drama-filled series in like the YA genre, definitely check her out because she is genuinely one of my favorite authors, and she's just such a nice person too. Another book series that I feel like no one talks about but it needs to be talked about is the Kingdom Keeper series by Ridley Pearson. I have been reading these books for a very long time. I read the first one in middle school, and I haven't finished the whole series, and I would love to sit down and pick one up right now, but all my copies are at home. It is about these kids. When we start off, I think they were 13, 14, so very like Percy Jackson age, and they are actors at Disney World. They were recorded for this new thing that they're using in Disney World called Disney Host Interactive, DHI, and they are holograms who lead patrons around the Disney parks and give fun facts and tell about rides and all that. It's just a really cool thing that Disney has started, but there's actually a magical element to it as these kids start to realize that when they go to sleep at night, they cross over and become their holograms in the park. And the reason that this is happening is because they need to save the parks from the villains, because at night, just like in Toy Story, all the characters come to life. So while that's good in like Mickey and Ariel and all those characters coming to life, it's bad in that it also means Maleficent is coming alive every night, and so is Cruella de Vil and Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame and all the other bad characters. And the one that gets me the most is the big scary monster from Fantasia, Sharon, I don't know how to say it. Terrifying. So this group of kids have to save Disney by fighting these very real monsters at night, and it is so magical. If you have even one little bit of love for Disney, you would love these books. They are so much fun, and you get to see another side of Disney that you'd never really thought about, because another really cool thing is that the author worked with Disney World quite a lot in being able to see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff in the park, so he could write like where his characters can travel and like go through the park. So like the underground system in Disney World where the cast members use to get from place to place without being seen, and it takes place in all the different Disney World parks, so Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom and Epcot. Like they go to each of them a little bit, and there are like all the iconic rides are there. Like they go on It's a Small World, which will, the scene that'll haunt me forever. And then they go on Splash Mountain and To Find a Clue, which was such a cool part. It is one of the most entertaining series I have ever read, and this world has greatly expanded since I first started reading the books. There is now a sequel series and a lot of extra stuff online. The author is very active in creating more content online, and I would love to catch up. I just am always busy, I feel like, but I would love to at least finish the original first 6, and then it actually does continue with a sequel series, like I said, that focuses on Disneyland. So it's just so much fun. The first series goes through the Disney World parks and then goes on to a Disney cruise, which, oh man, the cliffhanger in that book, I will never forget it. So I love this series. I love Disney, so it's just so much fun to read. Next is a YA contemporary that I think more people need to read because it's one of the serious, like hard-hitting ones, and it's called Girls on the Verge by Sharon Biggs Waller. I think this book is so important. It's been a couple of years since I've read it, I'll be honest, so I don't remember like the characters' names or anything, but the premise of the story is this young girl in high school. She has a boyfriend who I think she'd been with for a while, but she's looking like towards the college years. She's getting ready to apply and leave to college soon, but she finds out that she is pregnant, but she doesn't want to be a mom right now in her life. She does not feel ready to have a child, and she definitely doesn't really see herself having a child with her high school boyfriend. So she tries to talk to her boyfriend, but doesn't really help the situation at all. And so she instead enlists her best friends and asks them to drive with her to another state so she can legally get an abortion without having to tell her parents, because I do believe she is underage. And so it's just about their friendship and their journey. Do you hear this yelling outside? You don't need to yell while you exercise. Put headphones in like everyone else. And it was just such an incredible and touching story, and something I really care about. I think abortion is healthcare. It is basic healthcare. And if a girl, 17 or not, wants to have an abortion because she feels she's not emotionally, physically, or fiscally ready to be a mother, that is absolutely within her right, and it is no one else's business. So if you agree with that, I will put some links about registering to vote and other like information, so to make sure you vote blue in this election so we can save the country. This video will be going up just before the election happens, so make sure you are all up to date and ready to vote and save the country if you are in the United States. Girls on the Verge is just so touching and incredible, and she has to go through so much, and it's painful to have to see her go through all of this terrible stuff just to get basic health care. She tries to travel across the state line so she can go to a different place. I think they're in Texas if I'm remembering right. And then that doctor says, oh, we can't do it, you're underage, blah blah blah. So she changes her mind and says she's going to go to Mexico instead because they're right by the border. And so they go to Mexico to get, the pill is called Cytotec. It is the abortion pill. They have to deal with that being in a completely different country, and I mean, going to a different country to get healthcare is probably not the safest decision, but she's so desperate, and it's just such a good story, and me talking about it right now literally just makes me want to pick it up and read it again because it is so good. And there's another book that is very similar to this plot but is more comedic, and that's called Unpregnant. I don't know who the author is, and that one was made into a movie, which I do still want to watch the movie, but if you're looking for the more serious, actually talking about the topic kind of book, I would definitely recommend this one. Next, a complete change of gears, I have a historical romance that I have not heard anyone else talk about, and I watch a lot of historical romance videos on BookTube, and that is How to Dance with the Duke by Manda Collins. I read this in a reading vlog, which I will link down below because it was quite a fun reading vlog. It was a try a chapter tag, and this book is so good. It's so good. I loved these characters, and I just loved the premise of it. It's about this girl who wants to be an archaeologist, basically. She wants to study all these Egyptian artifacts, but no one's letting her because she is a woman and she's unmarried, and her father can't speak for her anymore because her father had a stroke. They call it something else, like some historical term, but it was a stroke. And he is not able to speak or really understand anything right now, and so she decides she's just going to get married and she will figure it out later so she can do her studies. So she just wants to marry some boring guy and deal with it. And then she meets someone else who is actually looking for clues about his missing brother. His brother went on an expedition to Egypt with this girl's father, and the father came back and his brother did not. And so together they sort of investigate what happened to him and what happened on that expedition to Egypt and all the while falling in love, and it is just so good. It is so good. This has to be one of my favorite historical romances. It is the sweetest story, and I really, really liked the main character. She was very feisty and so smart, and I just really, really liked that even in a historical romance she was pursuing an education, and I thought it was so interesting. Next, another romance, but a contemporary one this time. It is Finding Fraser by Dyer. I have not heard anyone talk about this, and I don't understand why, because it is the cutest book in the world. So it follows this girl who is a really big fan of Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, and she decides that she is going to sell everything she owns and go to Scotland to find her own Jamie Fraser. And that's what she does. She sells all of her stuff and goes to Scotland and decides she's going to live there for a while and just restart her life, because she feels like she's never really done anything. She doesn't have a career. She doesn't have her own like husband and family or anything, so she wants to just discover herself and find a purpose in her life. And a lot of trials come with that, some funny scenes, but she does eventually find someone who she thinks can be her Jamie Fraser, and it is just such a sweet story. It's a lot more like women's fiction, I guess, because it's very focused on her own growth and development before she really finds that love interest, but it is such a cute story, and I just loved the setting of being in Scotland. It was absolutely gorgeous, and I really, really hope I can go to Scotland one day. That is the dream. So I really loved this book, and I hope if you are looking for a little bit more Outlander type stuff, something more contemporary and something that takes place in Scotland, I think you would really enjoy this one. Next, this is a bit of an older fantasy in the YA genre, and that is Snow Like Ashes by Sara Raasch. I just read this book this year. I had owned it for years beforehand, but I just finally picked it up this year because I enjoy Sarah's TikToks so much. I was like, I should finally read her book, and it was so much fun. It is a very unique story that I have not read before. It is a world that is divided into factions where they're all based on weather basically and like seasons, and it was just so interesting. And the main character was like just so strong, but just because she was strong, that didn't mean she didn't have weaknesses, you know. She was very determined to be powerful and to help her people however she could, but it also was acknowledged that sometimes like she wasn't the person that could do that. Like she kept trying to persevere, but there were moments where like she was literally like tortured in this camp and starved, and there were days where like she could barely keep going. But there were just so many good scenes. I really, really love the main character, and then there's quite an interesting love triangle thing-ish going on, so I'm very interested to keep reading this series. There's 2 more books, but I really, really loved this first one. She was a very interesting character and just such a magical world. The magic system was so unique to anything I've read, and I really, really enjoyed it. And the very end of the book was crazy. I should have, like, I feel like I should have guessed the ending, but I didn't, so it was such a fun twist, and it definitely sets it up for a completely different plot than I would have expected in the other 2 books. Next is a book that if you have been on my channel for a while, you've probably heard me talk about it quite a lot because I love it a lot. And this is an author who is by no means underrated. She is a very popular author. One of her books was made into a movie. But no one talks about this book ever, and I think it is a disservice. I am talking about Passenger by Alexandra Braken, and with that Wayfarer, the second in the duology. This book is so wildly good, I don't even know how to explain it to you. It covers time travel, it talks about like racial inequalities, and it talks about different things in history and love and family, and like there's violence, and it's just so good and no one ever talks about it. It's so good. It follows Etta Spencer, who is a violist, I don't remember, and she in the beginning of the book suddenly discovers herself not in the present anymore. She has been sent back to the past and has to figure out what the hell is going on, and it is so much fun. She meets with Nicholas, who is just one of my favorite love interests, and they have to try and find this device and solve this big mystery, figure out what happened to her parents and all this stuff. It's just so good. If you like time travel, you will like this book. It is so much fun and the characters are great. And there's just a lot of really great social commentary too, because of the times that they're traveling to and the fact that Nicholas is black and he comes from a family of slaves, if I'm remembering correctly. I think his mother was a slave. And there's just so much really good social commentary, so much excitement and horror and romance. It's so good. It's so good. If you have not read this book, I don't know what you're doing. The last book I have on this list is Dark Radiance by Allison Alldridge. This is a book I read for review a couple months ago and I really enjoyed it. It is about a town that is filled with angels and ghosts and other like bits of mythology and stuff like that. And it's so interesting because that's not a story that I've really read before, unless you can count City of Bones, which I feel like that's not directly angels. So I had a lot of fun reading this, and I just really like that it is such a unique story, and I really like the author herself. I follow her on Instagram, and she has put so much work into this story and had it self-published and everything, and I think that's a really admirable and cool thing that she has done, and put so much love and work into this story, and it really shows. It is such a fun mystery and romance, and the mythology is just weaved throughout the story, so I really enjoyed it. And those are all my recommendations for underrated books. I hope that there are some books you are thinking of picking up, or maybe you at least had some to add to your TBR. I hope that these are ones that you've maybe never heard of before and have really considered looking at now. I upload booktube videos every Sunday-ish, and I hope that you come back and watch more videos. I hope that you enjoyed, so if you want to like, share, subscribe, and all that fun stuff, I would very much appreciate it. So I hope you have a good day. Bye!